In this video, we are going to talk about the Richardson Maturity Model. And this is from a presentation, The Steps Towards the Glory of REST. Now, the Richardson Maturity Model, or RMM for short, was established by Leonard Richardson in a 2008 QCon presentation. And basically, this used a model to describe the maturity of REST services. So an important distinction about when we're talking about REST services, unlike SOAP, there is no formal specification for REST services. And SOAP was actually a product of a working consortium that came up with SOAP. All the CS guys, and they got companies together, and they built up this big specification for doing SOAP-based web services, and it had XML schemas and WSDLs and all that good stuff. That doesn't exist for REST services. So REST services is kind of an informal movement that's been largely adopted. There's a lot of widely accepted protocols for REST, but there's no formal working group that ever created a specification for REST. And that's why the RMM is important, because it helps mature and define some qualities of RESTful web services. Now, RMM describes 4 different levels. Level 0 is the swamp of POCs. Level 1 is resources, 2 is verbs, and then lastly 3 is hypermedia controls. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of these. Now, there are several core technologies that are involved here. One is hypermedia, the other is HTTP, and then URIs. So these are all important concepts, so let's progress on this. Level 0, and this is the swamp of POCs. So POCs is plain old XML, so kind of an old term, but this is just plain old XML, and this is using the implementing protocol as a transport protocol, and this is using some type of URI, a one-of-a-kind method. So this might be RPC, even SOAP would fall into this, or XML RPC. So what you are doing here is you are creating a URL to post an XML document against, or put whatever. You are defining something kind of one-off to your own thing. And there's a lot of things that are implemented like this, where you do a post or put of an XML document to a specific URI for the server to do a specific action. So kind of in a nutshell, kind of describes SOAP, but not as structured as SOAP. So RPC, in case you're not familiar, that is a remote procedure call. XML RPC is a technique of using an XML document to make a remote procedure call. So this is very, very old way of doing things, like before REST occurred. So very important. You don't see it in use very much. So some very old systems, I'm sure some of you guys are going to comment on this. Oh yeah, we use this. Because a lot of my students going through my courses do get the opportunity to work with some very obscure and old technologies, unfortunately. Next is going to be level 1, and this is resources. So this is using multiple URIs to identify specific resources. So this is a very important distinction. So here we have a URI, or actually URLs, where we are going to have the domain and then /product and then a product ID. So we are going to get through this URL, we are going to get product 123 or product 5687. And this allows us to structure the URL/URI to get a specific item. Very important thing, so that we're setting up the concept of resources. In level 0, specific resources don't exist. It's not tied to the URIs at all. The next level, and this is often where we see most RESTful APIs get to, and this is where we are mixing the URIs with HTTP verbs. So we previously talked about the different verbs that we have. So a get against products 123 will return the data for product 1234. A put against products 1234 will update the data for product 1234. And likewise, a delete against that is going to delete that. So this is very common and very practical to use. And probably, I'd say most of the RESTful APIs are going to conform to level 2 largely, where you are mixing the URIs, the specific URIs, with HTTP verbs. So you're taking the URI and then using the verbs to do different activities against a specific resource. Now the next level, the final level, is going to be hypermedia. So now the representation that we get back from the server is going to contain URIs that are useful to consumers of that API. And what this is going to do is help client developers explore the resource. There's not really a clear standard at this time. There is an implementation called HateOS, or HatOS, I think some people say. I could be very wrong on that. But Spring does provide an implementation of this. The standard is kind of evolving. As to my knowledge, there isn't a specific example, a standard on this, but HateOS is a standard representation, and trying to get to a standard on this, because right now it kind of depends on developers to explore the resource. If we can get to a specific standard, now we can use this to programmatically explore the resource. So kind of important distinction there. But the important part to take away from level 3 having hypermedia, now if you save a resource, that response body that's coming back after you save a resource is going to have information with URIs about how you can further interact with that resource. So the server is giving you information, additional resources. It's basically telling you how you can do more stuff with resources on that server. So this is a really, really slick implementation to see how it works out. So very, very interesting type of stuff. So just to summarize, this level 0 on the slide, but level 0 is just RPC calls using an XML document. So very, very haphazard, and I don't really see it used at all. Level 1 is going to break a large service into distinct URIs that are going to be tied to specific resources. Level 2 is going to start working with the HTTP standard that we looked at before, the verbs in HTTP, to implement specific actions. And then finally, level 3, this is the most mature of RESTful APIs. This is where we are going to be providing discovery, making the API more self-documenting, making it more client-friendly. So now the API is telling us more stuff about the API and how to leverage that API. So very important. State of the industry right now is generally around level 2. In use, you're starting to see some level 3, but not a lot of people are providing that information. But level 2 is widely in use in the marketplace today.